Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Edna.
And I'm Emily Su. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Siwa Leung urges public to consider cap on mainland visitors in context of plunging retail sales.
Public support for June 4th vigil at lowest in 6 years as organizers hope for record turnout.
Security Minister says Hong Kong's gun control laws adequate as police trace source of weapons in Kowloon Bay shooting. Retail sales in Hong Kong have plunged nearly 10%, the biggest drop since 2009.
Business in jewelry, watches and luxury goods in particular has fallen sharply as mainland visitors spend less these days.
Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying is urging the public to consider that in deciding whether the number of mainland visitors should be cut down. Heading into his weekly cabinet meeting this morning, Leung Chun-ying called for more public discussion on the sensitive issue of mainland visitors. Last week, the chief executive set off a storm by suggesting that the influx of travellers from across the border could be cut by 20%. Share prices of property firms and retailers were hit, and business groups set up in alarm, showing the flip side to concerns that Hong Kong's quality of life has been sacrificed for the tourist dollars mainlanders spend here. Leung today urged the public to discuss the issue further in the context of falling retail sales over the past 2 months. He said the public feedback last week had been useful for the Hong Kong and central governments to look into the issue, and the latest retail sales figures out today should now be considered. The government this afternoon reported a 9.8% plunge in retail sales for April, compared with a year earlier. It was the biggest single monthly drop since 2009. Sales of jewelry, watches and clocks and valuable gifts, which are mostly snapped up by mainlanders, dropped by almost 40%. The government explained that part of the reason could be a higher comparison base with gold sales, which spiked a year ago when prices plunged drastically. It specifically noted that visitors were spending less after a prolonged period of brisk retail growth. At the same time, sales of other goods which are staple fare for local consumers held firm, reflecting the still positive local consumer sentiment amid full employment. HSBC economist George Leung acknowledged the boost that mainland visitors give to the local economy, especially at the grassroots level by creating jobs. But he cautioned that there are too many of them entering Hong Kong under the individual visit scheme, which burdens certain districts here. Leung urged the government to look into it. The current arrangements allow residents of 49 mainland cities to come to Hong Kong under the individual visit scheme without joining package tours as they were required to do in the past. On top of that, registered Shenzhen residents can enter Hong Kong multiple times, a policy many feel should be the first to be scrapped. Last year, 27 million mainlanders came here under the individual visit scheme. A 20% reduction as floated by the chief executive would be equal to a cut of about 5.5 million. A new poll released on the eve of the 25th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown shows that more Hong Kong people are losing interest in remembering what happened there back in 1989.
But organizers of tomorrow's candlelight vigil at Victoria Park still expect a record turnout, despite rival events to be staged by pro-Beijing activists and even pro-democracy groups. The organizers of the annual June 4th Candlelight Vigil expect a record turnout for tomorrow's event, marking the 25th anniversary of the crackdown on the student-led pro-democracy movement in Beijing. But while they're optimistic, a Hong Kong University poll out today suggests people here are losing interest in remembering the military operation in Tiananmen Square, which shocked the world back in 1989. Results of the university's latest poll were released hours after Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying reiterated that his government will not comment on the issue. HKU interviewed 1,005 residents over the phone and found that 56.1% of them think the mainland's pro-democracy movement should be vindicated. That figure is down 6.7% from last year and is the lowest since 2008. 20% of the respondents opposed vindicating the Tiananmen demonstrators, an increase of 4.3% from last year. The poll found that younger people are far angrier than older respondents about the way Beijing handled the pro-democracy protests. The 25th anniversary of the crackdown also comes amid a widening rift in Hong Kong's pan-democratic camp. But People Power, the Federation of Students, and Scholarism say they will back the candlelight vigil despite their row with other pro-democracy groups over political reform. Their support is welcomed by the organizers, who will be confronted not only with a counter-rally by a pro-Beijing group, but also with rival events staged in Tsim Sha Tsui and Sheung Shui by two radical pan-democratic factions. The biggest source of tension is a plan by the Voice of Loving Hong Kong to screen a video outside Victoria Park claiming no one died in Tiananmen Square during the military crackdown. The Alliance in Support of Democratic Patriotic Movements in China has accused the Beijing loyalists of twisting the truth. Alliance leader Li Chegan urged supporters to focus on paying tribute to those who died on June 4th and not be provoked by the pro-China group. In Beijing, security has been tightened around Tiananmen Square on the eve of the anniversary. Dozens of riot police and security vehicles were seen parked around the landmark. Activists and political commentators said China's determination to snuff out any mention of the event is particularly strong this year. In the run-up to the anniversary, about 50 people have been detained, put under house arrest, questioned by police, or simply vanished. In one case, 5 people were charged with causing a disturbance for attending a gathering inside an apartment to commemorate the 1989 movement. Those present included scholars, a prominent Chinese human rights lawyer, writers, and the mother of a student killed by soldiers in 1989. Historian Zhang Lefan, who skipped the gathering, said the government's crackdown is unusually harsh this year because it feels threatened. The discontent within the country is intensifying, so authorities are worried this will create a domino effect and threaten their survival, Zhang said. The June 4th anniversary comes as China struggles with challenges such as slowing economic growth, worsening pollution, widespread corruption, and violence in the troubled western region of Xinjiang. A string of terror attacks in Chinese cities blamed on Muslim separatists from Xinjiang has added to Beijing's security concerns. Chief Executive Leung Chun-yin has expressed concern about how a mainland immigrant who sparked a shootout in Kowloon Bay over the weekend managed to get hold of guns and ammunition.
The security minister says it won't be easy given the size of cross-border travel, but he's insisting current gun restrictions are adequate. ATV's Arthur Okeola reports.
2 days after the crime drama played out live on TV, police are still maintaining a heavy presence during investigations at this public housing block in Kowloon Bay. Members of the elite police special duties unit stormed a flat in the building on Sunday morning after the body of a man shot to death was found on a higher floor. Inside the flat, they found the suspect, who was said to have shot himself. Today, the back entrance of Lok Ching House in Kai Ching Estate remained sealed off following the 12-hour drama that began on Saturday night. Residents there are still on edge after a harrowing weekend. This woman, who lives on the 21st floor, where the body of a 43-year-old air conditioning worker was found, said she hasn't slept properly since hearing 3 gunshots outside her apartment on Saturday night. Her young son said he has to hold his mother's hand for assurance whenever they take the lift. The government is offering counseling to residents. This woman says she'll accept the offer as she's still anxious and scared. 6 hours after air conditioning technician Liu Kai-chung was found with 3 gunshot wounds to his chest and back, the elite police squad known as the Flying Tigers closed in on the suspect's 10th floor flat. A 6-hour standoff began before 51-year-old Lee Tak-yan opened the door of his flat and fired twice at the police, who replied with 1 shot, but all missed. The mainland immigrant then appeared on the ledge of his apartment, pointing a gun to his head. After he clambered back into his home, officers stormed the flat. Inside, they found Lee with a gunshot wound to his head. He was declared dead in hospital. Speaking before his weekly cabinet meeting this morning, Chief Executive Leung Chun-yin praised the police for their swift action and professionalism in handling the incident. Leung said officers had managed to resolve a major security incident in a short time while keeping other residents safe. He thanked the residents there as well for their cooperation and understanding. The chief executive said the government and police were concerned over how the suspect got hold of the 2 guns found in his flat and are investigating. Security Secretary Lai Tung-kwok said the police would investigate several channels through which the weapons may have been brought into Hong Kong. But he admitted it's a difficult task because of the huge number of people crossing the border daily. Lai, however, insisted current laws restricting firearms are sufficient.
This can be evidenced by the number of cases that using firearms are extremely rare as compared with any other large cities.
The security chief denied concerns expressed by retired police officers that Saturday's operation had been jeopardized by the live media coverage.
I think the result speaks for itself. The whole operation has been conducted very smoothly, and of course the media themselves have fulfilled their duties in reporting, while the police has conducted a very successful operation.
Relatives of the suspected gunman were at the Fushan Public Mortuary in Sha Tin this morning to identify his body. Lee had lived alone in the building for a year, moving in after serving a 1-year jail sentence for a knife attack on a former neighbor in Yuen Long in 2011. In that case, a psychological report said he had difficulty controlling his emotions, but was not likely to become violent again. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
The MTRC has admitted that the Sha Tin to Central link will be delayed for 5 months because of an archaeological find at a station being built in To Kwa Wan.
But lawmakers fear work could be stalled indefinitely, and they're blaming both the government and the MTRC for making the wrong judgment call about the site right from the start.
This morning, 14 lawmakers checked the progress of archaeological excavation at To Kwa Wan Station, where construction work has been disrupted by the discovery of ancient wells and artifacts. Their inspection came as the MTRC revealed for the first time how long the Sha Tin to Central link could be held up.
At this moment, the time impact is about 5 months. And we are discussing with government about the weight and different method or different procedures in terms of construction technique to see whether we can recover some of the time.
The MTRC says the decision to halt construction near one of the wells pushed back the original plan to install a machine to bore a tunnel. But lawmakers believe a 5-month delay is too optimistic.
That's as of today. They don't know what's becoming underground in future, right? The archaeologists are literally spooning the earth around the site. So it would mean the entire rail link is going to be delayed indefinitely.
Most of the next archaeological report is due in September. Former KCRC boss Michael Tian, who chairs LegCo's Railway Subcommittee, said the MTRC should be able to change the design to accommodate both the station and the archaeological find. He cited the example of a metro station in the Greek capital, Athens. Information and technology sector lawmaker Charles Mok blamed the government and the railway operator for deciding to build To Kwa Wan Station on the former Sacred Hill site.
The government or MTR have made a judgment error in the sense that they believe that because the Sacred Hill was basically cleared up during the war, after the Second World War, so they believe that there should be minimal archaeological finds underneath. And so that got us into the troubles that we have today.
Mok demanded that the authorities say as soon as possible what they will do with the historical relics and ancient wells.
It's also very important for the government to clarify the decision criteria that it will have in order to decide whether or not the artifacts that will be found or have been found are going to be relocated, whether there should be a on-site museum for the Sacred Hill at the same time that there is a MTR station underneath. That is also feasible.
The MTRC said all options are worth considering, but a final decision will be made when the archaeological work is completed. The $79.8 billion Sha Tin Central Link was originally expected to begin operation in 2018. Before the lawmakers arrived, several groups staged rival protests outside the station. One group urged the MTRC to continue the project, while 2 others demanded that construction of To Kwa Wan Station be halted.
The MTRC has also come under fire for a 2-year delay in the high-speed rail link to Guangzhou. And work is behind schedule in 3 other projects: West Island, South Island East, and Kwun Tong Line Extension.
Still to come on ATV's main news tonight. HOS flats going for under $1 million, but they are in faraway Tai-O.
91-year-old woman in U.S. sets marathon world record.
What happens out there is real. Get the latest European news and current affairs. Whatever happens, when it happens. You are always the first to know. Check in current news. European Journal, tonight at 8. Challenge humans' limits, even beyond those. Endure pain and strains. Conquer dangers and fears. Limits could be unlimited. You do just have to be a little bit crazy. Leisure Time, Chasing the Rush, Tuesday night at 8:30. Summer is coming, celebrating the arrival of fabulous summer in the City of Music. Listen to one of the world's finest orchestras. Enjoy the fascinating summer days. Vienna Philharmonic Summer Night Concert 2014, Wednesday night at 8.
We lost our son in a traffic accident. We miss him. He had told us of his intention to be an organ donor, so we honored his wish.
I want to help others too. I will share this act of love.
Support organ donation. Register online.
Family support is important.
Find out Britain's top antiques enthusiast. To be one step closer to becoming an antiques master. Contestants are eager to show their talents. Now, the competition starts. Antiques Master, Series 1, tonight at 10. Want to promote your latest products on television? ATV's 2014 Ad Easy package is the right choice for you. Our promotion reaches as far as the Pearl River Delta region and southern China, and our price starts at just $68,000. Call 2992-8890 or our mainland hotline now.
The government is inviting first-time home buyers on a tight budget to apply for home ownership scheme flats costing as little as $640,000.
But there's a catch. The homes are in the remote fishing village of Tai-O on Lantau Island. Here's another opportunity to get on the property ladder for those who have long complained that soaring flat prices are beyond their means. Now, if they are lucky, they can snap up a flat for as low as $641,100 in Tin Li Court, a home ownership scheme project to go on sale. But the 85 homes on offer are in Tai-O on western Lantau, and those living there face long journeys to the city. Originally completed in 1995, the 12-story building was part of neighboring Long Tin Estate, which offers public rental flats. There were no takers for 80% of the units in Tin Li Court, forcing the government to give the block a facelift and convert it into an HOS project.
Regarding the renovations we have put in this building, you can see in this internal environment, we have repainted all the wall surfaces. And also we have changed the hinges for all the windows to the latest standard. Regarding the kitchen and the toilet, we have changed all the wall tiles and also the floor tiles. Even with the sanitary fittings, we have also changed to new ones.
To lure prospective buyers, the Housing Authority is also throwing in a 1-year warranty for the fittings. But building inspectors are less convinced and point out areas which need more work, adding that workers might charge premium rates because of the inconvenient location. Measuring 478 to 485 square feet each, the Tai O flats are expected to be popular with small families looking to become first-time homeowners. With a 30% subsidy, the asking price for the most expensive unit is $897,000 only. Applications open next Wednesday for 2 weeks. Those chosen by ballot in August will be invited for a site visit before they make up their minds. Overseas, a newly appointed Indian minister was killed today in a car crash in New Delhi.
But first, in a roundup of international news, U.S. President Barack Obama is in Poland for talks on European security. ATV's Banner Work reports.
U.S. President Barack Obama touched down in Warsaw this afternoon for a display of military unity with America's Eastern European ally.
I'm starting the visit here because our commitment to Poland's security, as well as the security of our allies in Central and Eastern Europe, is a cornerstone of our own security, and it is sacrosanct.
This means Poland will be used as a base for NATO campaigns, and Obama spoke in front of a dozen freshly delivered US fighter jets.
We've begun rotating additional ground troops and F-16 aircraft into Poland, and this is going to help our forces train together. It's going to help our forces support NATO air missions.
His trip comes amid concerns over civil war in Ukraine, following the US-backed ousting of its former government and widespread rebellion against moves to join Europe in eastern regions. Later in the week, Obama will meet G7 leaders in Brussels and is expected to tell them to pressure Russia to stay out of Ukrainian politics. India's Rural Development Minister Gopinath Mundi died today in a head-on car collision in the capital, New Delhi. He was appointed just over a week ago to newly elected Prime Minister Narendra Modi's right-wing Hindu government. Mundi, who was 64, was rushed to hospital where he died from cardiac arrest. The driver of the other car was arrested. Mundi was Deputy Chief Minister in the western state of Maharashtra from 1995 to 1999 and elected twice to India's lower house of parliament. People in government-controlled parts of Syria poured into polling stations today to vote in an election that's expected to be won by current President Bashar al-Assad. The country is in the middle of a civil war between Assad's forces and Western-backed militants, some of whom are linked to al-Qaeda. Rebel fighters have been stepping up attacks recently to try to disrupt the vote, which the US and its allies have dismissed as a sham. Assad is running against two relatively unknown candidates, the first time in half a century that Syrians have been offered a choice. Tehran is recovering from an enormous dust storm that roared through the Iranian capital yesterday evening, killing at least 4 people and injuring 30 others. The storm whipped up winds of up to 110 kilometers per hour, blocking out the sun and knocking down trees. It also caused power cuts in some neighborhoods. Other cities in central Iran were also hit by the storm, but there were no reports of any casualties. Ben O'Rourke, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Raymond Young.
So, another big name will be missing in Brazil.
Well, that's right. Colombia will be without their star striker. Radamel Falcao has been dropped because of injury.
The hitman, nicknamed the Tiger, will not be displaying his ferocious goal-poaching skills in Brazil. Radamel Falcao was reluctantly dropped from Colombia's World Cup squad after failing to recover from knee injury. Falcao himself agreed that he would not be an asset to his country if he's not 100% fit. Hosts and favorites Brazil held an open training session ahead of their warm-up match with Panama later tonight. Coach Luis Felipe Scolari says he's pleased with his players, who are all in good shape, except for 3 who were expected to shake off minor injuries before they meet Croatia in the opening World Cup game next week. Also expressing his confidence in Brazil is FIFA chief Sepp Blatter, who was in a South American country to hand over the coveted trophy to President Dilma Rousseff. "I won't need to remind you that Brazil has already won the World Cup 5 times," he said. For her part, the Brazilian leader promised to show the world a marvelous party, despite the massive street protests demanding better social services. England's players are in the US state of Florida acclimatizing before they head down to Brazil, where humidity is high.
Everybody's really focused and ready to go, and there's a real professional feel around the squad. Everybody knows exactly what's expected of them.
For veteran midfielder Frank Lampard, Brazil is his last World Cup. He's also leaving Chelsea after 13 years at the English Premiership Giants. The 36-year-old, who's Chelsea's all-time record goal scorer, is out of contract and is expected to join a US club next season. And if you can't go to the World Cup, then why not bring the World Cup to you? That's what inmates at a high-security prison in Peru did. Their mock tournament, featuring prisoners from 12 countries, came complete with trophies. Several of them, in fact, in case any gets stolen.
Finally, in sports, a woman in the US has proved that age is no barrier to becoming a world beater.
Nearly 25,000 runners took part in the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. But there was no doubt who was the star of the show.
I'm Harriet Thompson, and I'm 91 years old, and I'm running the marathon at San Diego for the 15th time.
Thompson, who overcame cancer of the palate, took part in her first marathon when she was 76. This year, she overcame the sweltering heat and finished in 7 hours, 7 minutes and 42 seconds, a world record for the fastest marathon by a woman 90 years or older.
Oh, my favorite part's at the end. When I get over that finish line, that's the best part.
Thompson said this was her last marathon, but then that's what she also said last year.
And a look at the weather before we go. It was still hot today, but the sunshine was replaced by clouds. Temperatures ranged from 28.4 to 31.3 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 72 and 86%. Winds were moderate coming in from the southwest. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 9. Tomorrow's UV index will be about 10. Now for a look at the weather in the region. Thundery showers associated with a trough of low pressure are affecting inland Guangdong. And now the satellite images. Cloud bands are covering most parts of southern China. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Mainly cloudy with a few showers tomorrow, but there will also be sunny periods. Temperatures will range from 28 to 32 degrees. Hot with sunny spells and a few showers for the rest of the week. Here are the latest pollution readings under the Air Quality Health Index. General stations are at 2 to 3, meaning the health risk is low. Roadside levels are at 4, and the health risk is moderate. Finally, here's the weather around the world.
That's our main news for Tuesday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Edna.
I'm Raymond Yan.
And I'm Emily Sue. Thank you for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, check in current news, European Journal. Elemental Evolution, ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014 is now inviting applications. Elemental Evolution, ATV Miss Asia Pageant 2014. Application form is available at ATV website and the following locations. Stay close to fresh K-pop from the hottest selling artists to the up-and-coming superstars. Keep in touch with the latest chart of the Korean pop music scene on Samsung Digital Special, Pops in Seoul, Thursday at 6:25. Recall mammals' life in the age of dinosaurs. Though threatened by the extreme peril of death, these brilliant creatures survived in their way. Figure out the key to mammals' reversal of fortune. All About documentary, World After Dinosaurs.